The early Muslims used to say, al-bitna, that which goes into the stomach, al-bitna tudhibu al-fitna, which goes into the stomach, makes like your intelligence and the wisdom go away. And how is that? Also we find, if you read books about raising your iman or how to maintain your level of iman, you find they list the things that increase your iman and things that lower or decrease your iman. And amongst the things that decrease, they list eating too much. And I remember one time I went to an all-you-can-eat, and I ate so much, and then we went to just Maghrib prayer in the masjid, and it was like Taraweeh for me. It was very, very long, because you're full and you can't breathe, and you're sleepy. And this is how it is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-A'raf, يا بني آدم خذوا زينتكم عند كل مسجد وكلوا واشربوا ولا تسرفوا إنه لا يحب المسرفين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the translation, O children of Adam, take your adornment, meaning your clean clothing, to prayer, and eat and drink, but waste not by extravagance. Certainly Allah does not like al-musrifun, those who are wasteful or extravagant. Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah comments on this ayah. And he says, and whoever leaves that, it is extreme, and both of those prevent health and bring illness. What he's talking about, he's saying that whoever leaves the advice of this ayah, because in the ayah Allah says, and eat and drink. If you don't eat and drink, and you go to an extreme where you're close to starvation constantly, he says that this brings, it prevents good health and it brings illness. And then he says the other extreme also, eating and drinking in extravagance, it also prevents good health and it brings illness. This is Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah. He continues saying, by that I mean not eating and drinking or in excess, or excess in that, like eating and drinking in excess. All of preserving your health is in these few divine words. This is his comment on the ayah. He says good health is in just this short ayah, that you should eat and drink but not in excess. So the question is then, food is supposed to make us well, it's supposed to make us healthy. So then why is it that now people become sick from food? How is that? How is it that Allah Azza wa Jal created something, intended for it to give us health and to make us healthy, and yet now people are getting sick from something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made for that reason? So there could be a couple of answers to that. One thing it could be because of how we eat. Because we're not eating as it was intended by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're supposed to eat a little bit, or as we saw in the hadith. But now we eat so much. And if you look at the books of nutritionists and others, they always mention too much of any food and too much of any substance is bad for you. And the problem is we eat too much. So we get a lot of every substance in our body. And the other thing could be what we eat. And that could be one of the main reasons or the problems. And the thing about that is, I've been warned many times not to ever mention these topics of the hormones in the meat and the chemicals in the vegetables, and I find people who are very much afraid that I'll ever mention these things in front of them. Why? Because they'll feel I'll become a barrier between them and beloved meat and chicken and the good stuff. So they tell them, don't mention these things. I would rather keep eating it. I don't care what poisons and hormones are in it. I'd rather enjoy these things. Please don't mention these. Because you know how they say, and I'm not saying the brothers are ignorant, but they say ignorance is bliss. You're happy as long as you don't know about these things. So this is another problem, and without going into what's in our food, I will just leave you with this. That to the food industry, we are nothing but guinea pigs. All they care about is how to make $1. And all the laws are on their side. As much as there are some regulations by the government, big industry always has the upper hand in the end. So we're nothing but guinea pigs in the sight of the food industry. They put some chemicals and they put things in the food and hormones that they know have adverse effects on human beings, but they don't care about that. Even things that are unnecessary. But I'm not going to get into the details of that. Unless someone wants, they can approach me later. So then, concerning Ramadan and eating, the issue has been reversed. Just as many things concerning Ramadan have been reversed. For example, our time in Ramadan. This is just 30 days out of the entire year. We're supposed to focus and spend the majority of our time in worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah could have chosen half the year for worship. He just gave us 30 days to spend our time and to spend most of it in worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal. But look at how our time is used now in Ramadan. And to a lot of people, Ramadan is a time when you're not eating and you're not drinking, so you make sure that you spend it in semi-hibernation, that you don't go out in the sun, that you stay at home, watch television. And you find Muslim countries, they cater to this need. You find in Muslim countries the best television programs are during the month of Ramadan. Why? Because the people are fasting and they have to be at home and they have to be entertained, because it's a very difficult process of not eating and drinking for a few hours. So you find in Ramadan the best TV shows and many different series, and people getting time off from work to go worship Allah, time off from work to go and sit at home within the air conditioning and so on, so they do not suffer any during the fasting. So the question is, what type of sin will be expiated or forgiven from this type of fasting? And as we said, the benefits of fasting is that it's an avenue to taqwa. And Allah mentions taqwa in the ayah of fasting. And there are many ways through which we get this taqwa. One of the things is, if you can stop yourself from doing that which is halal, then no doubt you can stop yourself from doing that which is haram. If I can have enough control to stop myself from eating and drinking, and that's halal for me, then no doubt I have enough in me to stop myself from doing something that's haram. And as you know, eating and drinking, they're essential to your survival. I mean, if you do not drink for 3 days, you'll die, and if you do not eat for 30 to 40 days, you'll die. So these things are essential to your survival, and you stop yourself from doing them. So what about other things that you don't need to survive? Like lying and stealing and backbiting and talking about this person and what they have done, and all these news updates. All that is unnecessary. So that means surely we have enough to stop ourselves from doing these things. If we can stop ourselves from the halal, we can definitely stop the haram. Other links between our fasting and how we're supposed to benefit, we find that if the stomach is hungry, the scholars say if the stomach is hungry, other parts are full. Your other body parts are full. And if the stomach is full, the other body parts are hungry. What does that mean? When your stomach is full, your other body parts, they're hungry now. So when someone's stomach is full, their eyes are hungry, their ears are hungry, their private parts are hungry, their tongue is hungry. So you don't find a hungry person bothered or worried about what this person is wearing today and occupying their time about talking about other people. Because their stomach is hungry and they don't have time to occupy themselves with these other things. But when your stomach is full, now you're free to do other things. And your other limbs, now they want to enjoy themselves because hunger is out of the way now. So fasting defeats the shaitan in that it removes lusts and desires from the human being. And that's why when someone is fasting, they don't typically fall into many sins when they're fasting, because the stomach is hungry. And of the benefits, obviously, and this is of the more popular benefits of fasting, is that when you're fasting, you can taste hunger, and then now you know how the other people, the poor people, feel. And they say hearing is not the same as feeling it. They say that the rider does not feel the pain of the one who is walking unless he gets down and he starts to walk. So we get to know how the poor people feel. Maybe they feel this all year long and we only feel it for a few hours. And also among the bad habits that have evolved during the month of Ramadan is that we care too much about eating. We care so much about eating. The main concern becomes the meal of the day, the chef's special, the most important issues of the day. So we've started to prepare for Ramadan with a diversity of foods and drinks and some fantastic and exotic foods that only surface during Ramadan. So now we and our kids look forward to Ramadan. Oh, Ramadan's coming, we're going to eat that kind of food during Ramadan. Foods that only show up during Ramadan. And when it's time for Maghrib then, people start to eat like they've been starving. So they eat here and they drink from there and grab food from everywhere until they start to sweat and gasp for air, and that complicates worship, but they don't care. So you look at the huge shopping list for the month of Ramadan. We want to ensure that there's a different kind of soup every day, and we go into a state of emergency. We have to have this kind of meat, that type of salad, this type of soup, appetizers, desserts, fruit, rice and bread, and even different kinds of bread, and then more meat. And people spend more money. Statistics from Muslim countries show that people spend during the month of Ramadan 3 times as much on food as any other month. Can you imagine that?